Hello, my name is Jackie Kirkup and welcome to WCGTV. Today is Thursday, March the 21st, 2024. Today I have with me Manon from the Souris and Glenwood Community Gardens. Welcome to our little program.
Thank you.
So nice to have you, and it's my first time meeting you.
Yes.
So it's a pleasure. I've heard lots about these community gardens and I've been going, who's this lady? I don't know who she is. I need to meet her and find out what the heck's going on down here. So I know there's some exciting things planned for the garden this year, so I will let you turn that over to you and let us know how we can get involved.
So our most exciting news that we're really looking forward to sharing with people is that this year we have member plots that are available for people to have for this season. So we are going to have a mixture of in-ground plots and raised beds, and people can apply for that by going to our social media on our Facebook.
Okay.
And filling out a survey, or if you don't have Facebook, which is totally fine, email us at sourisglenwoodcommunitygarden@gmail.com.
Okay.
And let us know if you'd like to garden with us this year.
Oh, that sounds super exciting. So if I have two people that live in my house, say, I don't know, my mom lives with me and we live together, can we both get a plot, or is it preferred like we just get one plot for the two of us?
So right now we're asking people to have one plot per household. So
Okay.
apply for one plot per household.
Okay.
However, you can apply as a group. Like what we found is a lot of people are a little bit hesitant about maybe having responsibility for a whole plot. So
I
they
see.
want to go in multiple households to a plot. That's fine.
Okay.
We can totally roll with
Okay.
that. We're just going to ask for one contact person that will be our point of contact for stuff like watering and anything having to do with membership. We don't want to deal with 5 people for one plot, so you will have to designate a spokesperson. But even like, a whole apartment group of people, like in apartments can apply, or anything like that.
Oh, that sounds really great. Great idea. And I can hear you. One person is enough to
Yes.
have to be juggling around and dealing with. So I'm curious myself. So what are the options that you have for gardening space?
So when we did our initial survey of interest in the spring of 2023, I was surprised to have so many requests and people wondering if we were going to have wheelchair accessible, mobility accessible, and raised beds. I've always just gardened in the dirt because I find I have to water less and it's less maintenance and it's cheaper, so I just do in-ground. But
Right.
Of course, it makes sense that a lot of people would want that style of gardening. So we applied to Prairie Mountain Health's Healthy Together Now grant, and
Okay.
we were successful in receiving a bunch of funds for lumber. So we are going to have 5 raised beds that are
Okay.
going to be 8 foot by 4 foot and just plain, 2 feet high raised beds.
Right.
And then we're going to have 5 wheelchair accessible beds that will be 2 feet by 6 feet.
Okay.
And we'll have the slant so that you can sit on a walker or in a wheelchair and access your garden space. The local shops class at the high school has agreed to build these for us, so we have the lumber.
Yeah.
And I believe it's Phil is the instructor.
That is correct.
I've been in contact with him, and we've been juggling around different ideas for design and stuff. So
Oh, that sounds great.
yeah, that construction of that will be April.
Okay.
And then there are various sizes of in-ground pots.
Okay. Okay. I'm excited to hear about the shops class being involved. So great to get the students involved.
Yes.
I was involved in another project with them a year ago, and making charcuterie boards that they made for an event that was held here in Souris, and they just did this most amazing job. The workmanship was super impressive. So
Yes,
makes me happy.
We're really excited. And one more note about the wheelchair accessibility. We want to make this garden truly, truly accessible for everyone in Souris.
Mhm.
So the Souris Glenwood Memorial Foundation also granted us some money for a wheelchair accessible path.
Oh,
So
wow.
right from the parking area, around the corner, through the fence, and between all these raised beds, there's going to be easy access.
Oh, that's amazing. That makes me also very happy to hear
Yes,
the accessibility, and it's so very important.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's
We,
wonderful.
In our startup year, we had 3 raised beds that were 8 feet by 4 feet. And
Okay.
we just, all our members kind of gardened together, and we shared watering, and we just kind of enjoyed the harvest together, and we gave some out for free at the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided that this year, now that we have our community plots and that our startup area is going to be designated as daycare space.
Okay.
So purely for little ones and all the daycares in town to be able to play in the dirt, we're going to plant some simple stuff, snap peas and carrots and strawberries.
Yes.
And, try and get the little ones interested in gardening as well.
And that's where it starts, isn't it, at a young age, right? I'm curious about yourself, how you got interested into gardening. If you grew up with it, or it's something you took a little later in life, or...
A little bit of both, my mother would tell you. So my mom knows more about gardening than I ever will. And she had massive gardens. We grew up on a quarter section in the southeast, so she had massive gardens, and they were different moisture levels. She had a wetter garden and a sunnier garden and a hotter garden, and all around the yard. And I hated it, and I fought doing weeds and harvesting and shucking all those peas and topping and tailing beans. And I moaned and complained about it and told her she was a terrible mom that did slave labor. And then I just really fell in love with it as a young adult. And then I moved out, and I really missed having a garden. And I started my little garden in Portage-la-Prairie, and then I got really into it.
Yep.
And then I've moved now to Souris, and I've discovered the insane amount of deer. And also in my previous house, I learned that my wife isn't necessarily a fan of me taking over the entire yard with recycled equipment.
Oh, I understand. Yes.
And making it a jungle of vegetables.
Okay.
So I have found a couple of like-minded people, and we're going to do that on town land.
Excellent. Instead. Sounds like a great plan. I can't wait to see all of this. As we were talking about the gardening space and then the plots, so what comes with the plot when you get your plot? What happens next?
We have water on site.
Okay.
We're applying for funding to have drip lines and sprinklers and quite a comprehensive watering system since we're right on the creek. But that all funding hasn't come in yet. So we do have a tap on site, and gardeners will be responsible for watering their own plots.
Okay.
And then there's going to be the 8-foot high deer fence for critter protection. And our first year, we're having it tilled with manure and some soil buildings and compost. Okay. And some straw and stuff like that, because the soil is very good, but down in the tree nursery in Frog Hollow, but it is also very compacted.
Yes. Yeah.
So
hasn't maybe had anything happening in it for a long time.
So it needs some tender love and care, but it's getting that this spring. So.
That's exciting. Oh, that's wonderful. I love that you've just moved to Souris and you call it Frogs Hollow, because that's all I ever known this location to be.
Wonderful. So I think it's so charming. I'd like it put on the signage.
Yeah. Oh, well, that would be fun too. So if you're new to gardening and you're not 100% if you want to commit to a plot, or you need some expertise, what would you, and you don't have time to commit, how can you help with that?
So one of the things, again, when we put out our initial survey, we wanted to hear from different gardeners in Souris about what they wanted to see from a garden, and we got tons of responses of people in my age range and others that said, they would love to garden, but they tried and they planted the wrong variety of cucumbers for pickles, or this just failed, or their tomatoes only had leaves and it never really fruited, and they just got discouraged in it. So in our membership, and the people who have come forward and are really excited about gardening, it's lots of people who have moved off the farm at my mom's age, who love gardening deeply and have this wealth of knowledge that goes back 30, 40, sometimes 50 years, and they would love to share it.
Yes.
So we developed a little mentoring program where in the survey, when you apply, you can say, are you interested in having a senior gardener kind of go through your garden plan with you and talk to you about what you want to do. And then if you have, say, a pest, like, my potatoes aren't doing well, your senior gardener can come in and say, those are potato beetles. This is how we deal with them. And that makes it a little bit more, I want it to be as least intimidating as possible. Gardening was something that absolutely everyone did, decades ago, and now it's something that not a lot of people do. But it really shouldn't be complicated, and it shouldn't be intimidating, and I want everyone who wants to have an opportunity to do it. If you're not interested in taking on a plot at all, there are going to be 2 large community plots that are just planted with donations and volunteers. And it'll be maintained by community members. And so what we plan to do is when it's time to plant, or it needs maintenance, or it's time to harvest, we will put out a message on our social media and talk to our friends and say, beans are ready, bring your own bag, come out, learn about it.
Yeah.
And people can just come and kind of dip their toe in the
Yes.
gardening
Yeah.
world.
Get a little taste of what those fresh beans taste like, and maybe a little understand what goes into making,
And
creating the garden and learning.
how to pick them. And I've been in contact with some members of the Sourcing Glenwood Harvest Food Bank. So we
yes.
can have produce from those community plots go into the food bank as well. So.
How wonderful. How wonderful.
Yeah.
I grew up also on a farm, and I didn't like the weed pulling and all those things, but I think about it now and I think to myself, wow, that's what my family or my parents had to do to raise 3 kids, was have a garden and have the potatoes and the corn and the peas and the pickles and all those things made. It wasn't you just got to go to the store and buy things like how we can now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So quite a difference in livelihood, but I'm thankful for having that foundation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, like those skills are so essential, and through my research in other community gardens in Manitoba, I actually learned this super cool piece of history. When it was like war times in this country, they turned the legislative grounds in Winnipeg into stable community gardens. So they were growing cabbage, corn, and potatoes, trying to bolster the food supply. And I think with COVID, we've really seen interruptions in supply chain. We're all dealing with inflation.
Yes.
And it just makes me so mad because the prairies have beautiful water, lots of manure, and seeds.
Yes.
So in my mind, there's no way that a little thing of raspberries should be $7 right?
You can grow it.
We can make that happen.
Yes.
You know, it's not like bananas or anything. It's not just those things that we're finding that are really expensive.
Right.
Even staples in Manitoba, like potatoes, we're seeing are really expensive.
Yes.
So that's really getting near and dear to our board's heart as well. And one of the main reasons we're getting this going.
I'm curious, and you don't have to name names or anything, but like how big of a board do you have? Is there a group of 10, 5, 2?
We put in our paperwork for becoming incorporated, and so we have an executive of 4 to 5 members.
Okay.
And then our current board stands at, I believe, 8.
Excellent.
And then we have a volunteer membership beyond that.
Yeah, I am so impressed that, how do I say this? I'm sit on a number of committees in the community, and I know sometimes how hard it is to get to volunteers and things to come out, and you're kind of like, okay, we're missing a spot, and how heartwarming it is to hear that you and many others have started this community gardens, and you have people helping and people being on an executive, and that just tells me that there's a need for a gardening, to get others' interest and get everybody together that have the same interest and the same goals, and it just is exciting.
It sounds like we just kind of came at just the right time. I know there was lots of talk for years before about how a community garden was needed, and I think the inflation frustrations and everything kind of came at the right point where we put out the survey and we got great responses.
Yeah, amazing. That's wonderful. Well, congratulations. That's
Thank
exciting.
you. I'm really excited about it. Like I said, food security is such a near and dear issue to my heart, and it just no one should be without awesome and abundant amount of vegetables.
That's right.
Where we live in a breadbasket of the world. So
isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
I know there's a few other, or you have an event coming up here in May. We were talking about the golf course earlier and talking about is spring coming? So we're crossing our fingers for the golf course and for the gardening plots here too. So what is your next event that you have planned?
So May 18th is our designated timeline where our fence is scheduled to be finished end of April. Our community beds, the raised beds and the wheelchair accessible beds should be finished by that time. So we are aiming to have all of that filled with dirt, ready to plant May 18th.
Okay, that's exciting.
And so we'll have first planting there, and I'm really excited. I've talked to town council about sitting down with them and doing a presentation, and hopefully I'll get some of them out there.
Excellent. And, good for you.
I was in contact with the daycare a couple weeks ago, trying to get everybody down to the gardens to do some planting on that day.
Oh, wonderful. That's good. So are you planning any other things to happen down at the plots this year? Like, is there any other construction happening?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. So
I know you have a little list that you've left me, so I'm excited to hear the plans.
So I have, my board and I have drafted up, this is year 2, so we have a year 3, year 4, and year 5 plan.
Okay.
And then what it should look like by year 20. So the plan that we've set out with permaculture principles, if you invest a lot in the garden, and you do high inputs in the beginning, in 10 years, it'll be very low effort, very high yields.
Okay.
The more effort you put in the beginning into infrastructure, the better you are later on. And we want this to be something that's not just good for service in 5 years, but in 50 years. So this month, touch wood, I should hear back from Tree Canada regarding $3,500 worth of fruit trees and shrubs.
Oh, wow.
So I would really like that to come through.
Yes.
And we've applied for funding in workshops when I talked about our senior gardeners that are mentoring. Pickles, jams and jellies, fermentations like sauerkraut, basic cheese making, mushrooms, like all we have, all this wonderful knowledge. This year I talked to my own mentor and I got set up doing maple tree tapping for the first time.
Oh.
So I was making maple toffees and maple syrup this week. So we'd love to have workshops on all of the bounty that's around us and how we can bring that into our everyday lives.
Oh, so interesting.
And we applied for quite a large grant through Pembina Co-op for a covered eating area. Like I said, we want this to be not just plots where people come and garden, but where they come to gather, where they come to trade seeds, swap tips, even our garden meetings I would like to have down there. Eventually, in the long-term plan, I do plan to apply for funding for a bathroom, but that hasn't been applied for yet because I don't think anyone will give it to me for a bathroom project.
Well, sometimes it's worth a try. You just never know, but I totally understand where let's get established a little bit and then see.
Yeah, and then prove a need and move forward. So the Canada Post federal fund has for kids' green space.
Okay.
So we applied for a playhouse and a play structure so that kids from the daycare can enjoy that, as well as parents who may be gardening and, like myself, have a toddler terror where it would be nice to actually be able to do some gardening and have that within sight.
Yes. Yeah.
And this year our fence is going to be only around the central gardening space.
Okay.
And so I've applied for quite extensive funding to have an 8-foot fence surrounding the entire property.
Okay.
And then that way that's safer for kids to by the creek, right?
Right. So, yes. Yeah. Oh, your passion has just got me super excited.
Well,
the Frogs Hollow is just not too far from where I live, and so there's no excuse why I cannot come down and check out what's happening at the community gardens.
We were so grateful that the town offered us that space. I mean, the old tree nursery, I'm not sure if you know, but I moved into Bill Tongay's house.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't realize that.
He was one of the main pioneers in this tree nursery, right? So it's very special to me as well that we also get to be involved in the tree nursery. And I've seen other community gardens where it really is just a bare parking lot of grass, and then you make the plots. But thanks to Bill and Murray Bradshaw and all of the other people in the tree nursery committee, there are beautiful mature trees there.
Yes.
And so there's space for hammock, there's shade, there's all kinds of dimensions that make it feel more like a food park rather than just a community garden.
Right.
Which is everything I could hope and dream for. So.
That's exciting. Your passion is amazing.
Well,
I love it a lot. Is there anything, do you think, that we've missed in our conversation that you would like to mention to our viewers?
As always, I'm so grateful for the involvement of my volunteers and just the sheer, dare I say, aggressive helpfulness. It's wonderful. Jim Ludlam came down and was like, looks like you need help tilling, and went back and forth. He must have spent days tilling up that compacted earth. And Dean Sherritt, dropping off manure and donating supplies. He let me sift through his wood pile behind his house.
Oh,
I
excellent.
found these bleachers, and that's how I made the original raised beds for last year's
startup. Yep.
We had a garlic planting party. My dad brought all our heritage garlic that he's been cultivating for decades at the farm, and he brought that all over here.
Isn't that something?
We planted that all for seed last fall. And so in August we had our garlic planting party, and we had my little one was the youngest one, and he was about 18 months.
Okay.
And then we had people all the way up past retirement age.
That's great.
And it was really lovely.
Yeah.
So
nice to see all ages come together.
So So yeah, if there's one thing I want to mention is just how amazing those volunteers have been and how easy it's made it to be passionate about it and really move things forward. Is people showing up has just been incredible.
Oh, that just makes me very, very happy and excited for this project. So the garden plot applications are available on Facebook.
Yes.
Is that correct? And if you don't have social media or Facebook, you can email surusglenwoodcommunitygarden@gmail.com, and you can get help set up to apply for a gardening plot. And then on May the 18th is the grand opening for the season. So looking forward to seeing some more information about that.
And there's some posters I printed off that I'm going to put up with some of that information as well, that membership plots are available.
Okay.
So we're going to put those up in the post office in our own town and hopefully get everyone who wants to garden out gardening.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, it's a good thing to be thinking ahead.
Yes, and last year we had, like I said, just those 3 little beds.
Yes.
And I had the foresight to weigh just some of the produce that we got from there,
Yeah.
to the hotel. And just what we remembered to weigh, not even all the produce, it worked out to more than 1 pound per square foot.
Oh my.
Of fresh, organic, local produce.
That's amazing.
And just for fun, when I was looking at the garden plan of how many square feet we were going to have this year, it's over 2,500. So the potential for sheer amount of delicious fresh food is really exciting.
Oh, I'm impressed.
Well, thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you, and I look forward to coming to check out the garden this year.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. This has been a production of WCG TV.